more North American Puyo players.
Congratulations on your victory!
But we didn't change.
Stop the tense
Stop,
game!
stop. So
Yeah.
if there was green.
引っ掛けさざるを得ないですね。いやここで10万4000点先打ち。
4年ぐらいですね。そう一から組み出すっていうのが得意です。世界中のいろいろなプレイヤーと対戦してみたいですね。Let's join the Puyo Puyo tournament together!
ぷよぷよバトルスタート。
Hello everyone, today we are thrilled to bring you the final tournament of Global Ranking Series Asia Online Tournament 2nd. I'm your host and caster, Naiki, and I'm super excited to be here with everyone today. And joining me is Yoshi as our commentator. Welcome Yoshi, and great to have you here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Naiki. I'm Yoshi, your commentator. It's great to be here, and I'm really excited. Looking forward to the matches today, as always.
All right, it'll be the two of us guiding you through the matches today, and we're super excited to be hosting this show. All right, so this is the second tournament, I believe. This year we had the first one 2 weeks ago, I believe, and last week we also had the Asia Expo tournament as well. So just a lot of Puyo Puyo throughout this month, starting with...
It's
go ahead.
been a really busy time for a lot of Puyo players right now. You know, there's tournaments to enter left and right for the international players and for the Japanese scene, which is really novel for us because it's only last year that we overseas started getting official tournaments from SEGA. So it's quite awesome.
All right, and this is actually my second time joining the Puyo Puyo community. So I'm still a bit nervous from the Grand Prix. And yeah, super excited to be here.
Everyone's super friendly.
All right, yeah. Do you have any thoughts coming into this week's tournament?
Yeah, well, just like last time, I think we're going to get a really good mix of players who are both experienced at the game, but also maybe a few new faces too, which I'm always really excited for. So we'll see what kind of mix we end up with.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think we are still preparing, so we do have some time to just chat for a bit longer.
Fantastic.
Let's see. So for, I guess, newer players, what do you think we want to look for in today's tournament for newer players, newer viewers?
Well, mainly when you're stepping up towards the higher levels, the biggest thing that you are focused on as a player is making a bigger chain than your opponent.
Yeah.
So once you get to the higher level of play, you start mixing in a bit of mid-game, so you poke at each other with smaller chains to stop the opponent from building a bigger chain. But as a low-level player, you tend to focus on just making that one good chain that will net you win. Unless you choose, because you recognize the fact that your chaining just isn't as good as your opponent, in which case you might go for a rushed attack. So you might go for a massive 2 or 3 chain, and in doing so you disable the opponent's ability to even create that big chain. So we'll see if anyone brings that sort of strategy in today.
All right. Is there any regional kind of strategy differences as well in terms of Japan, not Japan?
Yeah. Some communities actually do come together and really converse about strategy around the game, but some regions don't. So for example, the US scene, because it's spread across such a large area, there aren't that many physical meetups, and so players tend to devise their own strategies to figure out how they want to play the game. And the difference there is that, like, between that and, say, Japan, where there are a lot of in-person meetups because people are just clustered a lot closer together, I think that tends to lead to more community discussion and more strategies that are the same within the community.
All right, thank you for that initial insight. All right, let's go over what the Puyo Puyo Global Ranking Series Asia Online Tournament is all about. We'll be calling the tournament AOT going forward. Slide, please. All right, AOT is an official SEGA invitational designed to support and grow the Puyo Puyo community, especially here in Asia. Today, we will bring you the final tournament featuring the 8 players who placed first in the group stage to advance. All right, next slide, please. All right, we have KOLs competing in AOT today. All 6 of these creators also participated in the group stages.
I just want to shout out here that I was able to coach a few of these players last month, so I'm really curious to see whether they made it into the bracket or not as well.
Yeah, definitely super excited to see if any of these players made it through. And also, by the way, there is a QR code on your screen. I believe it's on the top right corner this time. And this is linked to our official Facebook page. We post updates on Puyo Puyo esports tournaments and community events here, so definitely follow us and check it out. All right, next up, we'd like to introduce our sponsors for today's tournament. IO Data Device Inc. is sponsoring this event and has kindly provided their gaming monitor, Giga Krista. It is the official monitor for the SEGA official Puyo Puyo esports tournaments. Next slide, please. Next up is Tayo Life Insurance Company. Thank you, as always, for supporting Puyo Puyo tournaments. Next slide, please. Next, we have Umbro. They kindly provided the uniforms for all the players in last month's Puyo Puyo Grand Prix final. Next slide, please. Techwind Company Limited kindly provided their gaming chairs, AK Racing Pro X Series for the Grand Prix. Next slide, please. We also have Harman International Japan Company Limited, which provided their JBL Quantum 910 gaming headsets. You've probably seen the players wearing these at the Grand Prix as well. Next slide. KaraokeCon, which provides karaoke spaces, is helping us with promotion by playing our tournament promo videos in their stores. All right, that's all for our sponsors. Once again, a huge thank you to all of these companies for their support. All right, now let's quickly go over the rules for today's tournament. For today's matches, we'll be using the Steam version of Puyo Puyo Champions. The tournament format is a single elimination bracket, and we'll be using Puyo Puyo 2. The first round of the final tournament will be first to 5s, and the semifinals and final will be first to 10s. And we actually have prizes for the top 4 players in today's final tournament. Slide, please. All right, so the top 4 players will be awarded with these medals with their player names engraved in them. They look super amazing, don't they?
It's incredible that there is something so personal that you can physically receive from playing from these online tournaments. Again, this is just something that we never had in the past. So for players to be able to receive this sort of award, it is absolutely incredible.
Yes, super excited to hopefully see these in the future in person as well. All right, next up, let's take a look at the results from today's group stages. Screen, please. All right, so these are the blocks from the preliminaries today. Is there anything you would like to pick up? Go ahead.
There are a few people that we've seen from even last tournament, but this time around there are a few different players as well.
All right.
It looks like a few of the top players from each block really crushed it though, so I'm curious to see how they're going to match up when they actually have to play against the other top players. Because, even if you're the top within your own group, the moment you step outside of that circle and play with the other people who have dominated their group too, then the stakes are completely different.
Yeah, definitely a lot of actually 5-0s that we see on the screen.
Yeah.
Super excited to see how they match up against each other, as you mentioned, when they match up against each other. All right, let's take a look at the bracket for the upcoming final tournament. Screen, please. Ooh. Actually, they're still preparing the bracket, it seems like. So we do have some time.
Well,
all right, so...
Yeah, I can shout out at the very least that there are a couple players from last time that we kind of expected coming into this, that they would follow through once again. So the 2 winners, well, not the 2 winners rather, but the top 2
players,
have come through once again. So we have Rick and Akliv from Taiwan. They're super strong players, and actually, looks like they're
we have the
in our bracket as well.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have Rick in our second match in the first round, and Akliv in the 4th match, so they have both been separated, I guess, and they won't meet each other until the finals, it seems.
Yes, a fair way in. We have a lot of different players this time around as well. Shard and Nero coming in. We also have Tamatama, who did make it last time, but didn't make it that far into this top 8. So it'll be exciting to see if they can perform against Rick this time around. We have Neko, who also came around from last time. Roni, who we haven't seen yet, but they are a part of our community, so we've seen them playing, and so it's awesome to see them having qualified.
Yeah.
And then Orange is also someone I haven't heard of. So again, a really good mix here. I'm really keen to see how each player plays.
All right, and these first matches are going to be first to 5, so really quick games actually, right? I believe I've only seen
that's right.
10s and first to 20s. So what do you think is the biggest difference when you come into these kind of short-term games?
I think mindset becomes really difficult to manage when you're in a short set. When you're talking about a long set, you can get like RNG screwed once or twice and it's fine because you have so many points to recover. But when you lose a point or a couple in a row in a first to 5 set, it can really get to you because the moment the opponent gets like 3 games in a row, they're already past the halfway point.
Yeah.
And so it'll be a big test of not just player skill, but also resilience.
All right, super excited to see how these players respond to these short-term games. It's my first time watching such, I guess, short games as well, so super excited for that. Honestly, super nervous as well. I don't think my Puyo Puyo knowledge is at your level, definitely not at your level. So yeah, hopefully.
Wow.
get through.
It's sort of thing where I think if you have any questions, feel free to fire them. Because
definitely.
I'm sure everyone in the chat is, there are actually, I saw a fair few people come in from the influencers side.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
Nice.
here we have a
All right,
match.
it looks like we do have our first match. It will be between Shard and Nero. So let's take a look at which way this match goes.
Wow, so it looks like Nero is playing at full speed. They're very confident with their chaining at the moment. So there's already a speed difference between the two players happening. Okay, nice neutralize from Shard though, so not taking too much damage here. But because of all that time spent, Nero now has quite the resource advantage, and resources are king in Puyo. Alright, Nero looking to set off their full chain now. Nice 3 double. That is going to be a lot of garbage.
Oh wow, that is a lot.
Difficult position to dig from, and Nero is following up excellently here.
Alright, the first game going to Nero.
That's the end of that.
A strong start from them.
It looks like both sides going for kind of shorter chains as well.
That's right. So the thing is that Shard did start with a short 2 chain at the very beginning of the previous game, and so that prompted Nero to then follow up with some quick chains as well. But another quick
super quick
chain to
single
start
chain,
with.
yeah.
So the question is whether Shard is going to be able to recover, because it looks like they've fumbled their chain a little bit here. You can see that they're taking a lot of time to consider their decisions from this point, whereas Nero is once again confident, holding down for most of their pieces. Off they go, guys.
Looks like Nero going for a large chain here. Oh, nice!
Wow! Look at how efficient that was. Only 3 Puyos left over. Yeah,
Super clean
Shard was having a
already.
really hard time.
Right, Nero taking
That's the end of that.
the second game as well.
And this is where that momentum comes in, because if Nero just keeps this up, they could just sweep the set if Shard isn't able to show some resilience.
The shape of their kind of fields are very different as well, it looks like.
Yeah, so there was a lot of priority from Nero to set off the bottom of their chain, whereas Shard was trying to go more vertical. But because of that, Nero was able to make use of more of their resources more readily.
Nice, all clear from Nero.
Wow, fantastic play.
Alright, looks like Nero will be taking this game as well. 3-0 now, so just 2 more games
Good. That's
for
the end of
Nero
that.
to take
Over the
this
halfway
match.
point. That's it.
Now, that's really fast.
Yeah,
Already
100%.
at this point.
First to 5s are so short.
Alright, once again, their boards look actually really different.
Yeah, this time around Shard is looking to rush, because seeing as Nero was able to get a big chain off so quickly, maybe Shard is looking to rush instead and disable Nero's ability to chain.
Oh,
Nero's
nice
having a hard
attack
time
from
keeping
Shard
down.
this time, though.
Okay, another nice 2-chain follow-up. That is going to bury those resources. Nero's in a tough spot.
Is still surviving.
Okay, nice defense from Nero. Losing space, but not dead yet. Shard just has
Barely
to
hanging
follow up
in
a
there.
little bit more. That's it. Okay, Nero is able to not access their greens. Such a good effort there, but Shard's follow-ups were very consistent. Very strong performance.
Alright, Shard taking his first game of the match. Let's see if he can come back from here.
100%. It might be working in his favor that he's going for these rush openings, so we'll see if he continues to follow that through, or if Nero makes an adaptation to that play. Okay, Shard does rush again, 2 double, 3 double, and Nero gets the perfect piece, yellow and red, to set off their chain. They were almost caught off guard.
Alright, nice response from Nero. Alright, it is match point
End of
now.
that.
Very scary. Shard is going to need 4 in a row in order to take it from here. He's just going to need to play with confidence.
Yep.
Okay, so actually, what Nero is building right now is the classic beginner form stairs. And when I say beginner form, I mean more so that it is one that is learned by beginners, but not that it can't be used by high-level players. So really exciting to see representation of even that strategy at this level of gameplay.
3,
All right, and he has triggered the chain.
Fantastic. It's
7.
going to be a 7. Nice. Shard sets off main chain. It looks pretty good, but unfortunately, the yellow fell in column 1, not a blue.
Super
So the
unfortunate
chain
there.
stops short.
All right, Nero
That's the end of that.
taking this first match of round 1. All right, super. Just
That was
consistent
pretty
play from
dominant.
Nero there.
Absolutely, yeah. It looks like they were playing really confidently. I'm not sure if Shard perhaps was getting struck by some nerves. There was a lot of slowdown during their gameplay, and even that last round, they were so close to taking that point, but they just had the wrong color in column 1, so either they forgot about it or made a misplay somewhere. Yeah, really close to being able to compete, just wasn't able to this time around.
Yeah, really, I think I noticed just a big difference, I feel, from when I watch the Japanese players, is that their starting fields are very different. I feel like the Japanese players kind of start with a kind of same shape-ish thing.
Yeah,
But
no,
it's-
absolutely,
there's
you're right about
super
that.
different boards just watching these two players play. I'm not sure moving forward they might have similar boards once we get further into the tournament. But yeah, just very different boards, very different styles of play.
Yeah, so you actually pointed out that there might be regional similarities between
Yeah.
players, and I think that's sort of what we were seeing in those Japanese players versus the ones here.
Yeah.
So in Japanese play, they tend to use that L shape at the bottom left for GTR.
GTR, yeah.
And then they have like sort of not a flowchart particularly, but there are a lot of common moves that they tend to make. And so they use a lot of those simple, easy to create shapes. And then it is, as they go higher up on the board, that's when they start making their own moves in order to fit their own play styles.
I see.
And so it's interesting where at lower levels of play, because you're not chaining quite as high, that variance in chaining happens way earlier on in
I see. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think it's the sort of thing where that if you lab those first like 15 pieces enough time, you will just see a lot of patterns that occur. Whereas when you get to higher points in the board, there is so much variance in what chain shape you've ended up with that you just have to adapt on the fly.
All right, it looks like we are loading into our next match. All right, we have Neko on the left and Rani on the right. Let's see who's going to take this second match of round 1.
Yes, so here we have those GTR shapes from both players once again, that L shape in the bottom left. But there is a slight difference between their build orders at the moment, so
Yeah,
we'll see who comes out with a better chain.
it looks like Neko going for his main chain.
Yeah, already firing, gets a 5 double off. Let's see how Roni compares.
3, 4.
It's like 6.
Celadon.
Oh no, only 5.
Ooh, not quite. Only resolves as a
Yeah.
5. So that double link from Neko powered the chain enough in order to take the round.
All right, game 1 going to Neko.
Strong quick chain, nothing too large just yet. Be curious to see if they will continue to cope with smaller chains
Yeah.
or if they will build up for much larger main chains.
I think as kind of a beginner, it's a lot easier to relate to these kinds of chains though in comparison to those large 10 plus chains.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really liking being able to see different player experience in these tournaments
Yeah.
because you watch the top level play and it's magnificent, but it's also a little bit hard to digest. Even for me, I'd like to say I played a pretty high level, but that top level of play is just incomprehensible at times.
Yeah.
Wow, really powerful from Neko there.
Yeah.
That is a very dominant chain once again.
All right, taking game 2 as well.
It looks like their chaining ability might be just that tad bit more experienced at the moment. And, you know, even if you can only make one more chain link than your opponent, that is enough to win the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that chaining confidence come through once again here. Neko is already starting to work on things on top of the GTR, whereas Roni has only just built that GTR setup. And so there's a clear difference between the player's comfort with building on the second floor at the moment.
1.
Yeah.
1.
Just poking.
Small pokes from Roni. Interesting. Trying to stop Neko from being able to extend with such confidence. And it did slow Neko down a little bit. So we'll see if Neko is able to work around this situation.
3.
All right, looks like Ronnie's main chain going off.
5.
Indeed, and Neko actually seems to have overbuilt
Ooh,
in
nice.
this case.
I want
Really nice catch from Roni there.
All right, game 4.
Yes, with a point on the board, Roni now knows that they have what it takes to continue taking rounds, as long as they catch Neko at a good time. Yeah, what's interesting about the matchups with players who can chain higher is sometimes, you know, if they're not observing the opponent, which is a really difficult skill, right? It's already hard enough
definitely.
your own board. So looking at your opponent's board is just so much more brain power. So if you are focused on building that big chain, sometimes if the opponent sends something that is relatively large but still shortish, it can catch you off guard and you won't be able to finish your chain in time.
All right, nice attack there from Neko.
So actually a fantastic adaptation. This time around, Neko, you know, went the opposite direction. Instead of overextending, they went, hey, I think I have enough now. Let's just send it while I have the advantage. And was able to take the round as a result of that. Fantastic.
1.
Get a few pokes once again from Roni.
Perks.
Poking back.
But Neko's pretty unfazed. They have the same amount of garbage on the board, so very even exchanges for the time being.
1.
Small poke from Neko, and prompting main chain from Roni, which is really interesting, because Neko decided to also just go straight into main chain afterwards.
Rabbit Lazuli.
Now, generally that will only happen
10.
if there is confidence in that main chain being higher, and Neko just knew exactly what they needed to do. They were once again thinking, oh, you know, I've got enough of a chain here, why bother extending if I know I'm going to win with this chain?
A beautiful 10 chain response from Neko. Match point now, 4-1 for Neko.
Just one to bring it home. Now, one thing that players might be thinking about at this point, so on Roni's end could be, hey, maybe you can poke with more than one chains. That could be something that could disrupt Neko. Otherwise, it's going to be quite difficult to keep up with that chaining potential, because consistently we've seen that Neko has just had higher chain length than Roni so far.
1. 2.
Alright, looks like Neko striking first this time.
3.
Ooh, their chain kind of pops on both sides.
Yeah.
That does limit their chain length.
It's a 7 chain from Neko.
Sapphire.
But...
Oh, 9 chain from Roni. Nice response. Alright, taking his
fantastic,
second
yeah.
game.
By 1.
Roni's not satisfied being left in the dust
Yeah.
here, showing off that chaining potential as well. It looks like Neko can't be too hasty with their chaining after all, because Roni has now proven that their chaining is something to be respected.
Alright, once again, slightly different boards from these two players.
2.
Indeed. In this case though, it looks like Neko went for the early poke. I'm not sure if it was a misdrop or an intentional move, but it actually put them in a pretty rough position because Roni has now attacked with so much more of their resources. Neko looking for the dig option here, goes for the nice 2 double strong and quick attack. Roni's resources are now the ones that are being covered.
1. 2.
It's like another 2 chain. Alright, nice
very nice
response,
following
just
up.
filling Roni's board up with the garbage Puyo.
1. 2.
And actually managed to dig down to that main
Yeah.
chain. How fantastic!
5. 6.
All the way
7?
to a 7.
Nice. Alright, Neko
Wow.
taking the game and the match. Moving towards that semifinals.
Excellent
Right.
work. Yeah. Neko was able to not only deal with their own main chains being higher, but they were demonstrating that they could dig out of those tricky
Oh yeah,
garbage
definitely. That
situations.
last game
Wow.
especially, I think honestly I would have given up at that point.
Yeah, it's really easy to feel like, you know, you just need to throw in the towel. Oh, all that hard work that I put into making my main chain is all gone, but if you persist, perhaps you can actually get to that main chain you made in the first place. Because
definitely.
you set it up, right? It's sitting there waiting for you to trigger it. And so all it takes is a bit of patience to dig down.
Yes, super. Oh, alright, it actually looks like we have the tournament brackets prepared, so let's take a look at that. Slide, please. Alright, so Nero and Rick moving towards that first semifinals match, and then in the second semifinals match we will have Neko and Akliv. So Rick and Akliv are 2 top players from our previous tournament coming back into the semifinals.
they're really looking dominant at the moment. Just like we saw in the pools, we're seeing 5-0s and
Yeah.
5-1s. So, yeah, these players are showing just why they are considered some of the best players outside of Japan.
All right, and these semifinals will be first to tens, so it's a bit longer now. We'll have longer games now, so they do have time to respond and adjust, and yeah, change things up if they need to, as well.
Yeah. There's this really interesting conversation about whether players in, a situation should look to adapt to their opponent, or if they should just keep using their playstyle throughout, because there's that question of, if I adjust my playstyle, will I be able to play as well as if I use my usual style of play? And so the big question also becomes, in a longer set, maybe it's okay to change playstyles because you have that wiggle room, whereas in shorter sets, maybe you should just stick to what you're comfortable with. But it's something that's really difficult for players to consider and figure out whether it works for them or not.
Yeah, definitely. Just a quick question. At the top level, I'm sure everyone's looking at their opponent's board, their own boards, probably the next Puyos that are going to drop as well.
Certainly.
At a lower level, should you just be focusing on your own board for the most part and just trying to make sure you can do what you want? Or do you also want to make sure as much as possible to look at your opponent's board as well?
Yeah, no, so that's a really good question, because a lot of low-level players actually fall into the trap of thinking, I need to be watching my opponent because how will I know if they make a 2-chain? But it comes down to that sort of consistency thing. So if you notice that your opponent is making 2-chains consistently, then that's something you need to adapt to. But what you can do instead of watching their board is just notice when in the game do they tend to build a 2-chain? When do they tend to attack you? Because if you can get that timing down, then you can prepare for it in advance without having to look over. Usually players have habits, right? And so if you can identify that habits without having to look at every single game, you'll have an easier time dealing with them. It's just less mental burden.
Yeah, definitely. Right now I'm not actually playing the game, so it's a lot more easy to look at both players. But when you're actually on one side, moving your pieces around, I feel like, there's just so much multitasking that goes on.
Yeah, generally you want to just focus on your own board because the hardest thing as a newer player is just making a chain that works. And so if you divert any other attention to, your opponent, then there's just more likelihood that your chain won't work in the first place.
Yeah.
And so sort of when you look at the cost and the benefit, there's too much cost into trying to observe your opponent than the benefit you get from, maybe I can catch them doing a 2-chain, but what's the point in catching them doing it if you can't respond to it?
How good in terms of strategies, maybe at a beginner level especially, are those short chains, like the 1-chains, 2-chains, coming in just poking your opponent continuously? Is that the strategy that works, maybe?
So especially between low-level players, you tend to use more of those format chains like stairs, and because of that, you're more vulnerable if something goes wrong. So it is pretty effective.
Oh, it looks like both players actually going for the clear. All right, let's take a look at our first semifinals match. Nero on the left and Rick on the right. Oh, wow.
So we've got a regional matchup here, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. Oh, nice response from Rick as well.
Okay, so both players have opted to send their all clear at each other, so now we're going to deal with some very interesting garbage chaining.
Yeah.
Very strange, unstable terrain.
All right, looks like Rick unleashing another attack, taking the first game.
Too much. See you next time.
So incredibly efficient from Rick, That garbage just did not phase him at all.
All right, he is the champion from our first AOT tournament, so let's see if he can move forward once again to that finals.
Yeah, that's right. It was a pretty big deal for him, considering the fact that Akliv tends to be the winner in a lot of these tournaments, as opposed to him. Maybe he'll choke it because there is that sense of pressure from having fought him so many times in the past. But first of all, he just has to get through these semifinals first.
All right, looks like he is triggering a 3-chain.
Nice attack, forcing Nero into main chain. The question is whether Rick can get his main chain extended within that amount of time. Oh,
Is a 7-chain going? Nice take from Nero.
Good. That's the end of that.
Yeah, there's that overextending that we saw in the previous game too, where Rick assumed he had the time to extend and outchain Nero, but in fact he should have just sent what he had already. So here we're also seeing that both players are using more familiar formats with their chains. They've got that GTR happening, and then the back of their chain is relatively similar. Ooh, wow. Big poke from Nero.
2. All for love. 4.
It looks like full chain from Rick in response.
7 chain coming in from Rick.
Yeah, so Nero now just has to send whatever they had at the time. They didn't get that much time though, so only a 6. Not going to be enough.
Alright, now a 2-1 for Rick. Do you know how old Rick is, by the way?
I think
he looks pretty young.
Or around about that ballpark, yeah. So I think he started entering tournaments at around the age of 10.
Oh wow!
So we've been following him for a few years by now. He's really shown just massive growth, which is insane because he was already playing so incredibly well. These young players are really making a move in the Puyo.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially in Japan.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Nice 2 double attack. Rick does not have that much time to respond, has to set up what he has. 4-chain response is pretty good.
Yeah, 4-chain coming in.
Nero does get full chain. So now Rick is once again rushing those resources. That's a full chain kind of
looks like a 9-chain.
Yeah, nice 9 from Nero.
Alright, now Rick to respond.
Once again, very efficient.
Oh, nice 10-chain coming in.
Perfect. +1. He knew exactly how much he needed there.
Alright, taking his 3rd game. Rick still in the lead.
Yeah, really nice management of his resources because despite Nero being the first one to send an attack in that game, Rick had perfect responses all throughout. Okay, another all-clear game.
Are those early all clears kind of just a RNG thing?
So annoying.
Yeah, so sometimes you will just get two of the same, and everyone goes for it except Yuki because he's special at the way he plays the game, I guess.
Yeah.
Strictly, you're pretty much at a disadvantage if you don't take that all clear because it's free 5 lines of garbage.
I see.
But yeah, he just is on a completely different level or plays in his own world, doesn't go by the standard rules.
Alright, moving into our 6th game. This is a 1st to 10 though, so it's not match point yet.
Yes, that's right. Nero has a lot of time to adapt to Rick's moves at the moment, so we'll see if some of that adaptation play comes in or not. For the time being though, Rick is looking pretty comfortable. He is only poking with small things because he knows that's all he needs to at the moment, with Nero's chain being so lopsided.
Yeah, it looks like those pokes are working as well.
That's right. Sometimes not the size of the attack that matters, but more so the consistency of it. Rick was just firing off consistent 2 chains, and because of that it's sort of stun locking Nero, where Nero has to take a line of garbage, and then place another piece, and then take another line of garbage, and it gets really annoying.
Alright, this time a bit different in their fields, early stage.
Yeah, Nero building up the left side earlier. Ooh, seems to have misdropped, so their main chain's going to be very difficult to work from now. That time spent is really critical too, because Rick has had all this time to build his main chain, and now he's just going for it.
4, 5, 6, 7, 3.
Alright, an 8-chain coming in for Rick.
Yeah, and that time spent really did hurt for Nero. Perhaps the nerves are kicking in here. That momentum from Rick is really strong, and again, knowing just how strong of a player he is probably putting a bit of mental strain as well.
Alright, now a 6-1 in Rick's favor.
Pretty tough, but still plenty of time left to recover from here. Alright, and we have Rick very confidently setting up main chain again, not caring too much about pokes. He does have responses to each of them, but he's not overusing resources in those responses. He's focused on just making sure that his main chain will be bigger, because he knows that that's where his confidence lies in this match.
1, 2.
Alright, poking as well.
Again, just poke off the poke, just so consistently sending 2-chain, and then full chain.
5.
Alright, and now a 6-chain coming in for Rick. Let's see if Nero, cannot respond to that. 7-1 now for Rick.
Down. Wow. Really dominant.
Yeah, his field was really clean there. Even I could tell that he was lining the Puyos up really nicely.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when you get to a high enough level, you can sort of force a lot of shapes to happen. And
Yeah.
for him, you could see those just like horizontal stacks of 3. They look so clean. Oh, he's looking to do it again here.
It looks like a 4. Oh, is it a 4 chain? 4 chain coming in from
Yes,
Nero.
indeed. Very nice.
Very
pull from
early
Nero.
attack. Nice. Taking
Yeah.
his second game now.
That's the end of that.
Yeah, a bit of a different move from usual there. Maybe that's what we need to catch Rick off guard, because as we saw, Rick was only sending those smallish 2
Yeah.
chains. And so Nero going for something much larger was a pretty strong move. We'll see if it continues to be a trend.
Alright, once again, Nero striking first with a 2 chain.
2,
Rick with the perfect response though. Nice 3 sending back some garbage.
1,
Rick kind of considering whether he wants to follow up or not. Does decide to do it. Once again, those 2 chains. Very troublesome.
Looks like Nero's main chain going off as well.
Rick's now rushing his resources out, gets the purple to trigger, doesn't take the purple okay. Maybe it's part of his tail. It's really hard to read this chain. There is so much on the back end right now. Yeah. Massive explosion.
Yeah, not enough.
Yeah, perhaps it didn't work the way that he wanted it to.
Right, another next to 5 chain coming in from Nero now. Alright, nice
Very nice.
play there from Nero, taking his 3rd game now.
Okay, on the
He is
run
catching
back
up slowly.
now. Yeah,
Slowly but
that's right.
steadily. Alright, very different starts coming in.
Yeah, I'm noticing that Nero is prioritizing that left side of their board a lot, and that's how they're pumping out some of those really early attacks.
Yeah.
So the difficulty here just becomes in making sure that what they're attacking with is enough,
3,
and whether their chain remains stable. So this time around, Rick just decided to go straight into main chain because he hasn't done that for a while.
9,
Alright, a 10 chain coming in. Let's see if Nero can respond.
Very strong. Yeah, in sending his full chain so early, Rick is really putting the
like a
pressure on. 'Cause
9?
once your chain goes off,
8 chain.
you just have to wait it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, taking that game with the 10 chain. Alright, 8 games now for Rick.
Almost there.
Yep, 2 more
Really
games.
dominant with those main chains. Alright, Rick showcasing once again that really clean chain.
Yeah, this-
GTR
those
with those
3 lined up
horizontal
there.
threes. So clean. Very easy to create mid-game attacks and also adjust them to how long you want them to be
Uh-huh.
with that sort of chaining. Okay, wow.
Right,
He's
huge
just tapping
chains
out
coming
his
in.
chain length.
3,
Scary.
4,
Alright, both players triggering their main chains. Oh, it looks like Nero's cuts off just shortly though.
10,
Yeah, with the stopping a bit early, that's a lot of resources spent and not enough time
Oh,
to recover them.
13 chain coming in from Rick there. Nice attack there.
see you next time.
Yeah, that is a massive 13 chain. It was so powerful that it was almost the worth of a 15 chain based on the scores, so
Yeah.
really powerful and really efficient.
Alright, match point for Rick. Let's see if he can take this game to move towards the grand finals. Nero
Seems
does.
like he's playing pretty confidently.
And Nero does need to take all of the games from here in order to move forward.
Yeah, 7 in a row is a big ask.
Alright, 2 chain coming in from Nero. Rick responding. Ooh, that looks
Wow,
tough.
that's a really nice 3. Nero does have main chain access, but Rick is following up with another
Yeah.
2 chain.
Alright,
Wow.
taking his last game 10-3 for Rick in the first semifinals. Alright.
Wow. He seems to have developed his own special little thing in this tournament. He's just sending 2 chains. That's all he needs.
Yeah, he does have those short chains. We also had the long chains. I think he had a couple or a few 10 plus chains as well. So just showing off
yeah.
that he can go both ways.
Yeah, 100%. I think the sort of thing that happened there was that he spent a lot of short chains in order to force the opponent
Yep.
to send their long chain, and that gave him plenty of time to outchain them consistently.
All right, so he will be moving towards the grand finals for, I guess, his second medal, right, this year?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he got the first place one last time, so we'll see if he can continue to grab the golds.
All right, and next up we have Neko and Akliv. So how do you think this semifinals will go? What do you want to see from
Yeah, well, I think Akliv is pretty dominant still, particularly with his recent performance showing that he's still as strong as ever. And so it's going to be a really tough match for Neko. But, you know, Neko has made it this far, and so
definitely.
if you've made it this far into the tournament, you've got to be playing well enough. So perhaps there is a chance, but it's going to be a very difficult match, for sure.
All right, it looks like we are still in preparation. As a region, is Taiwan pretty strong outside of Japan? One of the top regions.
Yeah, it was known for quite a long time that there were two regions outside of Japan that were particularly strong. Not quite on the level of Japanese players, but probably the best in the West for a long time. Oh, well, West is a bit of a general term because we used to say that anyone outside of Japan is part of the West. So,
all right.
But yeah, so Korea and Taiwan both have really strong players. They've just been playing the game for a very long time, similar to how Japanese players have had the game for a long time too. And so that accessibility really makes a difference in how strong the players are.
All right, let's take a look at our second semifinals match, Neko versus Akliv. Neko on the left and Akliv on the right.
Yeah, unfortunately, Neko's starting off this game with a bit of an early misdrop, and so they're going to look to rush Akliv instead of making a big chain. Alright, they've got it repaired now, but they are down a lot of resources, so Akliv can just spend whatever he likes and get away with it now, which is clever.
Looks a bit rough for Neko.
It's a nice response, but Akliv again just has so much to work with at this point. Nice small poke.
Another poke coming in to the main chain.
Yeah, main chain. I think he just recognized that Neko was down so many resources that if he sent, then Neko just would not be able to recover.
Super rough for Neko. All right, it looks like Akliv taking the first game of this semifinals.
A strong start for Akliv. Bit of a rough one for Neko, but we'll see if they can recover from here. Alright, both players putting up their GGR, but you can see a little bit of a hole developing on Neko's left side.
Yeah.
So that comes down to player experience and skill as well. Generally, as you get higher up in the game, you leave less of those divots in your board. You can see Akliv's chain is relatively even throughout, and so he's got a lot of stability.
Oh, it looks like Akliv in a tight spot though.
Locked off.
Oh, nice!
Oh, just managed to pull the piece with the 3 chain.
2, 3,
All right, Neko triggering the main chain.
2,
6.
All right, it's the 6 chain from Neko. Let's see how long Akliv's chain will be. 6, 7, at least 8, I think. 9.
Yep, gets the 9th link with the purples. Fantastic.
All right, taking game 2 as well.
That 3 chain at the top was really a resilient play from him.
Yeah.
It looked like he pretty much had no space left over, but he was able to make use and sort of reform what he already had as part of the chain. That left side was supposed to go into his main chain, but given that situation, he was able to convert it and make it into a dig play, so that's really impressive.
1, 2.
All right, a 2 chain coming in from Neko.
Nice cover on Akliv's resources here. If they can follow up well, they might be able to gain the advantage.
1, 2.
Okay, 2 chain coming through, but Akliv did manage to draw pieces in time. Those follow-ups were just a little too slow.
4 chain coming in as a response.
1, 3, 2.
And still has main chain to follow up too.
Ooh, Neko taking 2 hits there.
No match.
3-0 now for Akliv.
That resource difference is really coming in for Akliv. He, as I mentioned, can just spend whatever he likes at the moment, and it's just difficult for Neko to keep up with it. Okay, a bit more priority on just making sure that main chain works from Neko at the moment, has that first floor built up, whereas Akliv is constantly working on his second floor at the moment, so again, that resource gap is developing, but Neko is making sure to poke to make sure that Akliv doesn't get too comfortable making a big chain.
Looks like he has the 3 horizontals in the center there, Akliv.
Yep, that's right, and with it he was able to pull this 4 chain off.
Nice.
Really strong use of resources.
Looks like this is the main chain coming in from Neko.
That's right. And now Active has to rush for a green. Gets it just on time.
3.
Really nice 10 from Neko
Yeah.
there, so they're not slacking with their main chain length either.
7. 8.
Ooh, that's a 9 double.
10 chain coming in.
A lot of power there. It's going to be tough to offset this. Neko's second chain.
Right, only a 5 chain,
enough.
unfortunately.
Really good effort trying to counter
By
that.
1.
All right, now 4-0 in Aclive's favor.
Yeah, Active is also showing incredible dominance in this game so far. Neko just really needs to keep that speed up in order to retain that resource gap. Alright, once again a small poke. Active not too phased by that. Really nice poke here, 2 double.
3.
Active forced to send a really big response.
Right, Neko should be able to send this back. Nice. And Aclive now responding once again.
3. 4.
Ooh, he powered up so many resources on that tail though. That 5 triple, a massive explosion.
That was huge. Unfortunately, not enough for Neko. All right, 5-0 currently for Aclive. This is a first to 10 though. Still needs 5 more games.
Yeah. Once again, we have an all-clear start. But what I'm noting from throughout the set so far is that Neko tends to be the one initiating
Yeah.
when they're down on resources.
Oh, nice.
That kind of puts them in a tricky position.
1. 2.
Okay, nice small 2 chain. Neko has a good build to counter so far though. Manages to get a good 2 double off.
Oof.
And Active is unable to respond.
All right, Neko taking the first game for the semifinals. All right, 1-5 now. Neko needs 4 more to catch up.
Okay, so we've got another all-clear start happening now. Interesting.
This is a lot of all clears this tournament.
Yeah, it's quite unusual actually. Usually you don't see this many, so you've been treated to something special today, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think there was a single all clear in the Grand Prix when I was casting the tournament.
Yeah, they're really not that common because you need to draw a 1/16th piece and then another one, so
Yeah.
as a result of that, you feel like it shouldn't come up that much. But sometimes the game just decides it's that sort of day.
Yeah.
2. Acid.
All right, Neko triggering the main chain.
Oh boy.
Really nice timing
Nice.
once again.
All right, 2 in a row for Neko.
Okay, a bit of momentum is building here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the critical thing. If you are the one firing first, that always will put you behind in resources because, you know, as your chain is going off, the opponent can just build up more. And so if you want to attack first, you really have to make sure that it'll count.
1. 2.
All right, looks like similar timings for that first poke.
1. 2.
Aclive's more strong this time around, which forced Neko's full chain.
4.
Yep.
5.
The 6 chain coming in from Aclive.
Not enough time for Neko there.
All right, Aclive stopping Neko's streak there.
Yeah, that match, even though they sent their chains at the same time, it was sort of already decided from the very beginning, considering Aclive's chain was more powerful than Neko's, and so again, that resource gap just widens. Interestingly, Aclive is building up a lot on his tail end, but you can also use that as a poke.
3. 4.
What? Neko rushing main chain once again?
2.
All right, Aclive's response coming in.
4. 7.
Blue isn't there though, so it's only going to be a 5 chain.
2.
Oh, another attack coming from Aclive.
2. 4.
Yeah, considering his full chain didn't link up, he just had the rest of his chain available to go immediately.
All right, nice.
Really strong.
No match. By 1.
Nice aggressive response from
Wow.
Aclive, taking his 7th game now. 3 more games for
Yeah,
him
absolutely.
to go. All right, similar so far. Almost
Yeah,
like
sort of a flatter start from both players. Curious to see if Neko will hold off on attacking so early.
Oh, he does come in for the first poke.
1, 2,
Active now responding with the 3 chain. Neko only has a 2.
1.
It's not too bad.
A 2-chain attack as well.
That's not too bad either. But Neko decides that they are done with their chain for the time being. Off they go with full.
1,
Right, Akliv triggering as well.
3, 4,
That's a pretty nice 9 chain
Yeah.
from Neko.
6,
But Active had a lot of time to extend.
8. Sapphire.
Oh, wow. A 9 chain that only just counted.
Yeah.
Very close from both players. But tricky for Neko.
Will he? No, he's still there. He's still hanging in.
2,
That space is starting to run out though. Akliv has a very nice 4 chain. Neko has a 2.
2-chain coming. Oh, unfortunately losing this
one.
game as well.
Okay.
8-2 now for Akliv. Just 2 more.
This is a really rough time for the time being. Akliv just tends to have, again, more resources, which means that he can spend more of his chain.
Alright, very different builds coming in. Start things
Yeah, Neko
off.
prioritizing the front of their chain. I think if they can keep this up, then perhaps it's going to be possible to outchain Akliv after all. Let's see. Alright, but it looks like Akliv has caught up in the end, so now Neko's starting to poke to try and stop Akliv from being too confident with his chaining.
Nice 2-chain response.
2. Acid.
Ooh, good
3-chain
follow-up
now.
from Akliv.
Alright.
Wow. And he had another chain ready too.
Yeah.
4.
Good.
Going off even after the game has been set.
That is wild. Indeed, only one more point
Yep.
for Akliv to advance to the grand finals.
If he does take this game, it will be a rematch for him.
That's
and
right.
Rick.
I imagine he'll want to get in a bit of a revenge this time around.
Yeah, definitely. Oh,
1.
Ooh, wow. Very early
2.
poke from Neko. Good response from Akliv. It's about even now. Once again, a small poke, but
1.
Akliv is very high up on the board now. He could
1.
extend a lot at once. Good 1 chain.
1.
Nice 2-chain
2.
response. But in
Acid
response to the
wash.
2-chain, we have a 3-chain
Nice.
from Akliv.
1. 2.
Oh, and it's
Another attack
double
coming
after
in.
that. Wow.
all right. Akliv taking
I won.
his final game as well, moving on to the grand finals. Just a lot of quick pokes from both sides there. Akliv taking the lead with just a bit more. All
Yeah, I think what we are seeing from both Akliv and Rick is, as high-level players, they
Yeah.
are able to make multi-step procedures. So they'll set off a 2-chain, and then they'll be ready to send another one, and then another one after that. And so that's really the mark of that high-level play, where you just create so many options for yourself and different ways to dismantle your chain to stop your opponent from being able to make any counter moves.
I feel like I would probably just make a mistake somewhere and trigger my main chain by accident.
Yeah,
trying to
yeah, there's so
respond.
much potential for that to happen because, you know, as you're spending resources everywhere across your board, it's hard to keep track of what's meant to be a side chain and what's meant to be the main chain. And once you get to the top level of play, they are able to make resources that can do both, right? So you can dismantle it really easily to make a small
Wow.
chain, or you can keep it as it is in order to make your full chain work. So it becomes this really big juggling act.
Yeah, super impressive. Yeah, definitely not something I can imitate.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
in the
these
future.
players have trained for a very long time. Absolutely.
How long has Akliv been in the scene? Do you know?
Oh, a very, long,
long
time. I'd say that it's at least a decade, maybe 2, maybe not in the community, but he has been playing the game since very young. So
I see.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's been in the community for that amount of time as well.
All right, so we will be jumping into the grand finals shortly. It's actually a really quick tournament because the first rounds were first 2 5s. We're already at the grand finals.
Yeah, that's right. The set length really extends so much as you
Yeah.
extend the, like, you know, you double the set count, but the length of the set also increases more than just double the time a lot of the time.
Yeah. All right, I think we're gonna jump into the game as soon as it gets ready. So we do have some time until that. So yeah, just jumping back, going into this finals, Rick versus Akliv. Which way? What do you think will happen in this tournament? Which way do you think it'll go this time around? Any predictions?
Yeah, it's interesting because unlike the previous matches, we're not going to see that sort of resource difference between both players, at least not as pronounced. They are going to need to force those resource differences to happen by spending different parts at different points in the game. So Rick might send a quick 2-chain, but then if Akliv can respond with a 3, it becomes the onus is on Rick to create something even larger than that on top. And so the back and forth game is going to become a little more interesting here.
All right.
Intricate.
Yeah, and both players really dominating their opponents so far. I believe in the previous tournament, it was a 10-6 for Rick. So much closer than
that's right.
earlier games. So yeah, super excited to see which way it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty common as well, even in the past. I've talked about how Akliv tends to take those wins in the tournament.
Yeah.
But when I say takes those wins, it's actually usually something along the lines of a 10-9. So
Yeah. Oh, wow.
even though
really
Akliv tends to be the ultimate winner, it's still
Super
a really
close.
neck and neck match. Yeah.
I see.
So 10-6 is actually a little surprising.
All right. And if Rick wins this time around as well, he will have 2 gold medals.
Yeah. How awesome
To
would that
brag
be to
about.
flex, go around showing people, hey, I've got 2 gold medals from official SEGA tournaments.
I wonder if
That's
he's already
something that
received
nobody
his
can
first
say.
medal. Do you know?
I'm not sure, actually. Yeah, I'll have to ask for a photo of it, I think, because I'd love to see how the name engraving looks.
Oh yeah, definitely, right? Because the picture only has the medal itself. We haven't seen
Yes.
anything yet with a name, and I don't think there's anything here in the studio as well. So I don't have any
Yeah.
real medal.
I'd love to see how it looks,
Yeah.
for sure.
Definitely. And all 4 players, so in the top 4, will receive medals. So
Yeah, that's right. That's the really exciting thing. You don't have to top place, but as long as you play well enough, then you receive one of those shiny medals.
yeah. Have you participated in any big tournaments recently? This year, maybe?
So the community has gone pretty quiet recently, just because last year we had that official Puyo Global Ranking Series circuit. And so a lot of players were playing like every single weekend. We'd have 1 or up to 3 tournaments in a weekend we had. And so a lot of players, they either burned out or, you know, they just wanted to take a little break from the game.
I see.
And so recently we haven't had any tournaments, but this weekend there is a community tournament.
Oh, okay.
And I think that sort of marks the start of perhaps people hosting tournaments again, so that we can really start driving the scene forward once again.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that season to open up once again for us.
All right. That's more of a community non-SEGA tournament. I see.
Yeah, that's right. We're hoping that there will be a Global Ranking Series
definitely.
2026, but for the time being, we will just have to like sustain ourselves and keep ourselves sharp until that happens.
What kind of practice do you guys go through in this kind of off-season?
There's a few different directions to go in. A lot of people don't feel like doing this part of it, but they should, but also like it's tough. The part I'm talking about here is looking back at their own replays, because when you're not actively having to engage in matches every single day or every single weekend, you could be using that time to actually look back at your replays and analyze and pick apart your mistakes, because if you don't know explicitly what you're doing wrong, then, well, you can't really improve, right? But it's so easy to get sucked into, I just want to play the game because it's fun. And honestly, even I make that same mistake as well. But, you know, the players who are really keen to put that study time in are the ones who will improve the most. So, you know, some players will look at their replays. Some will perhaps lab in solo practice. So maybe they'll set the AI on, but then they'll make it so that they can't send any garbage. And so they practice just like different chain shapes and get more familiar with different things, because at that level, you want to make sure that not only are you comfortable with your own chain builds, but you know how other chain builds work. So you might build it yourself in order to understand when other people are making it. In the same way you'll do it when you learn a language, right? You might not use all of the language you learn, but you have to understand it from other people speaking to you. And so there's that same sort of training where, again, you just try and up your versatility in the game.
Do you guys have like practice partners maybe in the similar region, or maybe with Japanese players as well?
So we often don't have partners due to like the time zone difference, unless maybe you're in the US, because there is a pretty big player base. But There are a few times where, for example, I have had Void as a practice partner for a few
nice.
weeks, where we'd say, okay, for a few weeks, let's sit down at this time and play a match together. And then sometimes we will choose to use that time for something else, like replay analysis. And so maybe we'll do that for a smaller period of time. But that's also something that's really useful, because getting a second eye on your gameplay is really good, so that you can have that back and forth discussion.
Are there any like quote unquote teams outside of Japan? Or
Not really, but something that the community is also preparing at the moment is doing crew battles. So having
cool.
like some regions assemble their own team and then having them fight each other. And it's more of a community-oriented thing than a real serious competition. Well, I shouldn't say that too much, because I'm sure some of the teams are preparing really seriously. But, well, yeah, there should be some really cool like country or region-based stuff happening soon as well. So while not explicitly or officially, there is still these like events that we run as a community to try and get people of the same region to work together.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that's something that we value a lot in these online spaces, particularly. If you can't meet up in person, it's so important to engage with people. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like have a reason to engage with others.
And it might be interesting. I'm super new to this community, so I don't know too much. But if you have like a team 5-on-5 kind of scenario, that might be something interesting as well.
Yeah. I believe that's actually maybe a format that we've used in the past.
Oh, really? Nice.
The sort of way that we go about it is maybe not in the crew battles, but I know we had like there was an event where we'd have a high-level player paired with a lower-level player. And then for the entirety of the event, you two work together in pairs to fight other pairs. But the way it works is the low-level player might fight first against the other low-level player. But then the high-level players have to pick up from where they left off.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so there's this incentive to try and like coach your pair in order to make your whole team work better as a result. So I think those sorts of things are great community building activities as well.
Yeah, super excited to see where Puyo Puyo goes. All right, looks like we are going to jump into the grand finals shortly. I think they're just in character select right now. So
super excited.
Have some more time, I think.
Yeah, this should be a really tense match.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, it looks like we are in the game. The grand final is starting. On the left, we have Rick, and on the right, Akliv. Let's see which player will take the championship.
Yeah, so at this level of play, both players are pretty much holding down the entire time now. There's so much confidence in their moves, and they're doing all of that while considering not only their own board state, but also the opponent's. So much calculation happening. Okay, neutralize small probes from both players. Nice 3 from Rick.
1, 2, Sapphire, 4, 5,
Akliv
6,
with the main chain coming in. Let's see if Rick can respond.
10.
Manages to get main chain off as well. The question is whether that is going to be enough with the time that he gained, forcing Akliv to fire fast.
8, 9, 10.
All right, an 11 chain coming in for Rick.
Really nice response, and it looks like Akliv just didn't have enough to respond after the fact.
All right, Rick taking the first game.
Nice start for him, getting off on the right foot. Again, he's fighting for 2 championships in a row, so it'll be a big moment for him if he can manage it.
Yep.
Okay, not too aggressive for the time being, but we can see perhaps some pokes are coming through soon. Rick was a bit hesitant about whether he wanted to poke.
Yeah.
3, 4.
Whoa! That is a massive chain from Akliv just to poke. Wow, crazy 7 chain pokes.
All right, 1-1.
Sometimes pulling off such unusual moves is a good way to throw off high-level players as well. You know, there's sort of an expectation that maybe at this point in the game you should have enough resources to make this big of a chain, like a 3 or a 4 chain, but a 7 chain poke is very unusual, so I think Rick just fumbled around because he didn't know what to do in such a situation.
All right, let's see who strikes first this time around. All right, looks like a poke coming in from Akliv. The simple
Rick a bit hesitant
one.
to take that garbage because his space gets so limited.
Looks like he's in a tight spot once again.
5,
All right,
He
he
doesn't
is
want to set
triggering.
off his chain,
7,
but was forced to.
9. Cobalt.
All right, 10 chain coming in from Akliv.
Oh, but despite Rick's
10,
chain breaking so much on the back,
11.
it still manages to be
Alright.
12.
12 chain.
Wow, unbelievable.
I think he like literally only had one open slot left on his board at one point there.
Yeah, wow, he was really trying to maximize the amount that went into his main chain. Incredible work. A little bit awkward for both sides at the moment. There's that huge gap in column 6 for Akliv that he's only just starting to work out now, so because of that he's a bit behind.
1, 2,
1.
Looks like
Wow,
Two.
that's a
starting things off.
5, 6,
full chain from Rick, really hard to read for Akliv. He was hesitating a lot about whether he should extend or not.
10.
Yeah.
Acid wash.
All right, looks like a 12 chain for Rick
Wait,
once
what?
again,
See you next time.
taking the third,
Wow.
taking his third game, 3-1.
So much chaining confidence right
Yeah,
Yeah, we saw that 13 earlier, now we've got a 12. Akliv is really going to need to make sure his efficiency is up there to stay on par at the moment.
right, both sides with really clean fields right now.
It seems as though Akliv is indeed putting a bit more priority on making sure his main chain is clean this time around. No pokes from either side for almost the entire time.
1, 2, 3,
Rick did fire, but now Akliv, I think, might just be going for main chain.
6.
Oh, there's no red!
Zuli.
Wow,
All right.
I won.
another 7 chain
Yeah.
poke! That's crazy!
These mid-range chains from Akliv's just really powerful, even in the earlier match as well.
Yeah, that one was also particularly lethal because the thing is, we couldn't see whether or not column 1 had the color required to finish the rest of the chain. Like he used that ghost space as a bit of a resource to throw Rick off because Rick just couldn't read.
1.
All right, 3 chain coming in from Rick.
3.
Another huge mid-game response from Akliv too.
5 chain coming back at Rick.
3.
Looks like his main chain going off.
Overlap.
That's a nice 6 double. Akliv does manage to draw the piece in time,
3,
Yep.
4.
but those purples are required in the back part of his chain.
All right, Rick with the successful response coming in again with another chain, a 4 chain coming in for him.
Star Rain.
Ooh, links into 5 in fact. Very strong.
Nice.
Akliv unable to respond from that little space.
And now a 4-2. Yeah, definitely closer as we predicted.
Rick's building up a bit of a comfortable lead at this point because if they continue to go back and forth like this, then Rick is going to win. So Akliv is going to need to make a big swing in points.
1.
Okay, nice 1 chain poke.
Looks like a poke back. Another poke coming in from Rick.
1.
Nice 2 chain. That's going to cover a lot of Akliv's resources because he's very high up.
1. 1.
Very short
Oh,
pokes.
Ackliff with pokes coming in.
2.
All right, Rick
3.
responding with a 4 chain there.
That was awesome.
5 chain
Aklif
from
spotted the
Aklif.
4 chain. Made it a
Nice.
5 in order to make sure it's sent back. Awesome work.
Overlap. 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, Aklif now looking to trigger his chain, but unfortunately, it's really awkward. He had to build up in order to get to the top of his chain, but because of that, he had to build up with purples, which is going to cut his chain, but maybe it'll explode in just the right
Just
way.
8.
1, 2,
Not quite.
3, 4.
Right, Rick striking once again with a 5 chain this time.
2.
Oh, Aklif is trying to dig down, but the green just doesn't reach. So close. Would have been amazing to see that dig work.
Next time.
Yeah, 5-2 now for Rick on the left side.
Halfway to that championship point.
Yeah, his 2nd in a row.
He is playing with so much confidence at the moment. Ooh, another small poke to start off. Acliv doesn't have a response, but is able to take the garbage fairly comfortably.
1.
Small poke from Acliv. Looks like he doesn't want to set off his full chain just yet.
1. 2.
Mission.
3-chain response from Rick.
1.
Really nice use of his exposed resources there from Rick.
1.
Acliv now looking to poke back and perhaps recover a bit of space on his board because he's so limited right now.
Acid wash.
Lab.
Wow!
2.
That is a lot from Rick. 4-chain and
Yeah.
then 3-chain follow-up.
Alright, looks like 6-2 now for Rick.
Goodness, yeah. The small pokes really just covered what Acliv was able to do, making it easy for Rick to follow up. And that's what I was talking about in terms of making opportunities to follow up. Rick's doing a fantastic job of that at the moment.
Alright, just 4 more games for Rick. Let's see if he can take this game as well. You know, really clean once again with those horizontal pieces there.
Yeah, that's right. Really good for chaining efficiency from Rick. Whereas Acliv is looking to poke a little more.
Looks
Good
like
for Rick,
Rick
it
though.
does cover!
2.
Oh, he does manage.
Mission.
Whoa!
Get out of
nice
that
3
nice.
double! Oh, and then he had his full chain available
Yeah.
too! Wow!
Alright, Rick once again striking Acliv.
10.
It looks like he was so caught for space, but
Yeah.
once again he maneuvered out of it so excellently.
Alright, now 7-2 for Rick.
Wow, that score gap is kind of
Yeah.
huge. It's more reminiscent of what we've been seeing earlier in the tournament. Yeah, it looks like for the time being, Acliv is struggling a little bit with his chain shape. It's been a bit lopsided the past few games, which has made it difficult to respond to Rick's more aggressive plays.
No pokes yet from either side.
No, it looks like Rick might actually be prioritizing main chain. Nope, never mind, that's a poke.
Oh, alright.
He's not ready.
What?
See you next
Smooth
time.
poke there.
Yeah, there's a bit of a mental game that happens when both players don't poke for a while as well, because you're sort of on edge for an extended time, because you expect one player to send something, but when they don't, you get scared to fire first, because the opponent might just respond with something way larger.
1.
Alright, poke coming in from Rick.
1.
Yes,
Two.
nice
From
quick one
Acliv.
chain, but 2 double, it's going to be enough to
One.
keep garbage on Rick's
Two.
side. Good follow-up from
Passive.
Acliv.
Alright, 3-chain coming in now from Acliv.
3.
Full chain from Rick, that's going to be quite powerful.
Oh,
5
wow.
triple into the 6.
1. 2. 3.
Let's see if
Full chain
Acliv's
now.
chain.
Sell it up.
Going to Link, it's only
Ooh,
5.
not enough.
Oh boy.
Gosh.
Alright, 9-2 for Rick. This is match point and
Incredibly
championship
dominant
point
from
as well.
Rick. Yeah. I think he's just having such a hard time maneuvering around Rick's moves this time around. Okay, wow, very similar builds for both players this time around. That's kind of wild.
1.
Alright,
Okay,
first poke coming in from
timing.
Acliv.
1.
Looks like some
Okay,
lags
we're
there,
gonna
but
chain.
2-chain.
Oof.
Acliv
1.
takes it nicely, had a way to keep digging down.
1. 2.
2.
3.
Decides to set a full
Acliv
chain. It
going
looks
with the
like.
main chain.
6.
Does Rick draw a purple? He draws the blue purple, in
Silly.
fact, for the extra link in his chain. Incredibly efficient at the moment.
Alright,
We'll
and
see if-
Rick's chain triggering as well. Let's see how far this goes.
9.
This is
10,
another massive chain.
11, 12.
Double.
All
Too much for
right.
Acliv to respond to.
Wait,
12
what?
chain finishing Acliv off, and wow.
Exceedingly strong performance from Rick this time
Yeah,
around.
Rick
That
taking
was
the championship
so dominant.
of Puyo Puyo Global Ranking Series Asia Online Tournament second. Congratulations. The super solid performance in the games that we saw from him today, including that finals. Wow.
Yeah, his attacks and defenses were both just excellently well timed against Akliv this time around. It looked like there was just no crack in his armor at all.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and we actually have the results slide prepared as well. So let's take a look at that. Actually, I believe we have the medals first. We just once again showing what the prizes are. Each of our top 4 players will receive these prize medals with their names engraved in them. And so once again, we're going to recap later on, but once again, congratulations to everyone who made it through all the way to the semifinals. All right, and that will wrap up our broadcast of the matches of PGRS AOT Final Tournament Second. So how was that? How was today, Yoshi?
Yeah, really interesting to see both players from, again, the community that we've seen for a while. We got to see that classic matchup of Akliv versus Rick, but also really nice to see some different players make it into the top 4 this time. So I'm really happy for those players that their hard work is paying off.
Yes, I was super excited to see, just the various play styles as well. Something very different, I think, from what we see in Japan. And I haven't seen any Japan vs other region matchups yet, so super excited for that in the future as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's take one more look at today's results. All right, so in the top 4, we have Nero and Neko. In second, we have Akliv. And in first place, we have Rick. Once again, congratulations to our champion, TBP Rick, for taking his second championship. All right. This super dominant performance today from Rick throughout. And we are going to wrap up the broadcast shortly, but how was today's event overall for you, Yoshi?
Yeah, really awesome. I want to thank again the players who decided to take time out of their day to participate in this event. It's really cool to see players from different regions that really get out as well. There's some regions here that we don't tend to see that many players for. And so, if you're the one representing your country, I just want to say thank you for putting yourself out there.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we hope to see a lot more players participate as well. So I think I'm not sure about future events, but we have had 2 events in a really short period of time. So hopefully we have more coming. And so if you're interested, once again, don't forget to follow us on the Facebook. Yeah, check out that QR code.
Yeah, the QR code.
Definitely. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we will have more events in the future. And as you mentioned earlier, there are a lot of community events as well. So if anyone's interested,
so keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, participate as a player or as a viewer as well. I think I'm more on the viewing side right now, but yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with that. So if you're interested in the
highly
competitive scene, definitely check it out. And yeah, this does conclude our broadcast, or second broadcast of AOT. And yeah, I hope everyone watching and playing enjoyed the show. And for me personally, as someone just joining the community, I'm always a bit nervous casting these tournaments as a newbie.
I'm sure the community can say, hey, if the chat can also give all the compliments that you can to Naiki today, please do.
Yeah, definitely. I do sneak into you guys' streams every once in a while as well, just to make sure I'm not completely left behind.
We appreciate that.
Just in silence. I don't say anything that I'm too shy to start talking in those comment sections. But yeah, definitely super excited to be part of this community now, and hopefully I can learn more moving forward. And for the newer viewers and players out there, hopefully we can learn together moving forward as well. So once again, so many thank yous to everyone involved in this tournament, in the community. And thank you so much once again for all of the players who performed today. Once again, congratulations to Rick for taking your second championship. And a final shout out to the Facebook page. Once again, the QR code is on the top right corner of the screen, so definitely check it out. And yeah, we hope to see you guys in the next event as well. Thank you so much for watching.
you